All worlds begin with Demon Slayer. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 701, Entering a New Field. That is to say, the cells in the body of Shimizu Fushiguro consume very little ATP, which may be another evolution of Shimizu Fushiguro's cells. Although it has lost 70% of its activity and cannot cope with the cell proliferation during hard-load combat, the cell tolerance is very high. In 5 days, a very huge whirlwind appeared around Shimizu Fushiguro, and those whirlwinds have sucked all the maple leaves that have fallen in the past 5 days into them, flowing with the flow of the whirlwind. These whirlwinds were all caused by Shimizu Fushiguro's breathing these days. Suddenly, Shimizu Fushiguro stopped causing it, and the whirlwind slowly dispersed around. The maple leaves also fell slowly again, because they were no longer controlled by the whirlwind. Shimizu Fushiguro opened his eyes, and then looked at the maple leaves withering all over the sky. Suddenly, he stretched out a hand, and then his palm was facing up, as if he was going to wait for the maple leaf to fall into his palm. Soon, a maple leaf fell towards Shimizu Fushiguro's palm. But the maple leaf did not fall on the palm of Shimizu Fushiguro, but floated above it, as if there was a force holding up the maple leaf. Then, the maple leaf on Shimizu Fushiguro's palm floated up and down, and after more than 10 seconds, it suddenly turned 360 degrees, which looked very magical. Shimizu Fushiguro was very happy after opening up a new field, and his originally fierce face actually showed a smile. 5 days of meditation practice, in addition to the initial mastery of wind control, more is the precipitation of Shimizu Fushiguro's state of mind. It must be said that Shimizu Fushiguro can be regarded as a blessing in disguise, but it is absolutely impossible to rely on the current level of wind control ability to kill ghosts. Therefore, Shimizu Fushiguro needs a long way to go before he can get back into the battle. Although the time is long, at least Shimizu Fushiguro has hope in his heart. Looking at the maple leaf in his palm that rotated with his thoughts, Shimizu felt that this was a good training, so he planned to let the maple leaf float and rotate in his palm all the time. In this way, he can also lay a solid foundation for controlling the wind. After that, Shimizu thought about eating, and then got up to find food. Shimizu returned to his mansion and asked the hidden team members to prepare food for him. After that, the hidden team members prepared a bowl of eel rice for Shimizu. Shimizu looked at the maple leaf in the palm of his right hand, and then looked at the eel rice and chopsticks in front of him. Soon, Shimizu had an idea. He planned to let the maple leaf leave his palm, without the help of his limbs, and directly induce the surrounding airflow to make it try the wind force, and then let the maple leaf float and rotate in the air with the help of the wind force. With this idea in mind, Fushiguro took action and pulled his palm away. The moment his palm was pulled away, the spinning maple leaf suddenly lost control and slowly fell to the ground. Fushiguro immediately created a whirlwind around the maple leaf. Driven by the whirlwind, the maple leaf successfully broke away from Fushiguro's palm and began to spin stably again. Fushiguro maintained this state, then happily picked up the eel rice and chopsticks and started eating. While eating, Fushiguro kept paying attention to the maple leaf to prevent it from losing control. Chapter 702, Muzan Kibutsuji appears. After that, Fushiguro began to learn his wind control ability, but no one knew that Fushiguro was using another way to make himself stronger again. 3 months passed like this, and the Demon Slayer Corps was in a peaceful state, and everyone was fully prepared for the next battle. And on a full moon night 3 months later, an uninvited guest came to Yubuayashiki Yoshiya's mansion. Nearly half a year has passed, and Yubuayashiki Yoshiya's physical condition has become worse and worse. Since the invasion of the swordsmith village by Muzan Kibutsuji, Yubuayashiki Yoshiya was so angry that he could not get up from bed. In the following months, Yubuayashiki Yoshiya's condition has been deteriorating, and the skin of his whole body began to fester and rot. According to this trend, within a month, Yubuayashiki Yoshiya will fester all over and die, and finally turn into a pile of bones. In the courtyard, where Yubuayashiki Yoshiya lives, the uninvited guest Muzan Kibutsuji was standing there. In the room, Yubuayashiki Yoshiara and his wife were there. Yaoya, there is an unexpected guest. Yubuayashiki Yoya's wife was not panicked at all, but said to Yubuayashiki Yoya calmly. Hearing this, Yubuayashiki Yoya turned his head to one side, based on his own feeling. It seemed that, because of the perception of breath or the special feeling of Muzan Kibutsuji, Yubuayashiki Yoya murmured, "You are finally here. Muzan Kibutsuji. What does he look like?" Amen. Yubuayashiki Yoya immediately asked his wife again. Because at this time, Yubuayashiki Yoya was wrapped in gauze all over his body, like a mummy, and his eyes were completely diseased. Even if there was no gauze wrapped, Yubuayashiki Yoya would have been completely blind. Hearing this, Yubuayashiki Yoya's wife Shianayan looked at Muzan Kibutsuji and described him. He is about 25 to 30 years old, with a pair of plum-colored eyes, which are as slender as a cat's, and a delicate face. Muzan, you hate our Yubuayashiki clan, right? Yubuayashiki Yoya was not afraid of Muzan Kibutsuji, but took the initiative to talk to him. Except for that man, I have never taken the Demon Slayer core founded by your Yubuayashiki clan seriously. Now that hundreds of years have passed, I'm no longer the same person I was back then. I'm getting stronger all the time, but you, the Demon Slayer core, as human beings, have been standing still. Muzan Kibutsuji said with complete disdain. You may not know that you and I are of the same bloodline. Because you became a ghost, the Yubuayashiki clan was cursed, and the children born in the clan hardly lived past a full month. Just when the Yubuayashiki clan's bloodline was about to be cut off, we received help from a god. With the help of the god, the Yubuayashiki must mate with a girl from the Jingu clan, so that the children born will not die. Despite this, the descendants of the Yubuayashiki clan still cannot live past the age of 30. Only by eradicating you can the curse be broken, and the Yubuayashiki clan's bloodline return to normal. Yubuayashiki Yoya was still muttering what he wanted to say to Muzan Kibutsuji. Hearing this, Muzan Kibutsuji was not surprised at all, but denied it. It's ridiculous. The blood defect of your Yubuayashiki clan is actually being blamed on me. Chapter 703 Conversation between the two parties. I'm the one who was harmed by your Yubuayashiki clan, because I was born in the Yubuayashiki clan, and the Yubuayashiki clan gave me a sick body. The reason why you are like this is that your blood is defective. Muzan Kibutsuji said angrily. Muzan Kibutsuji, who was still a human at the time, was indeed a member of the Yubuayashiki family, but his health was very poor at the time. When he was in his 20s, he suffered from cancer. Muzan Kibutsuji sought medical treatment everywhere, and during this period he met a very strange doctor. After injecting the doctor's special medicine, Muzan Kibutsuji became a ghost. Of course, in the process, because it takes time for the full effect of the medicine to play out, Muzan Kibutsuji thought that the doctor was bragging, so he killed the doctor in anger. After killing the doctor, Muzan Kibutsuji felt the changes in his body this time, which made Muzan Kibutsuji very excited. Just when he was about to go out, the hot sun almost killed him. Gradually, Muzan not only found that he was very afraid of the sun, but even the usual food could not satisfy him. His body's instinct drove him to start eating people. Although his body had improved, Muzan felt that his body still had defects. Eating people was not a defect in Muzan's mind. Muzan felt that his biggest defect was fear of the sun. However, the doctor had been killed by Muzan, so no one could answer all of Muzan's questions, but Muzan knew that the doctor must have known that he would become like this. So, Muzan searched the doctor's body and found a notebook in his personal belongings. This notebook recorded all the doctor's research and the description of the medicine injected into Muzan. Muzan learned from this notebook that the medicine injected by the doctor was actually a semi-finished product. The medicine lacked an ingredient. The note said that this ingredient should be extracted from the blue spider lily. However, there is no record of the details of the blue spider lily in the notebook. There is not even a reference picture or description of its appearance, only a name, so Muzan Kibutsuji has been looking for it for 1,000 years. In the middle of the journey, Muzan Kibutsuji also tried to break through himself, but he never succeeded. The only breakthrough Muzan Kibutsuji made was that he was no longer afraid of beheading. You are talking nonsense. If that's the case, why didn't the Yubuayashiki family have such a situation before? After you were born as a ghost, the whole family seemed to be cursed. Muzan, you are the disaster star of the Yubuayashiki family. Yubuayashiki Yua retorted. I didn't come here to argue with you about these things. Are you going to mediate with me? Muzan Kibutsuji did not continue to argue about this topic. He did not come here to mediate the relationship with the Yubuayashiki family this time. Yubuayashiki Yua also knew that one of Muzan Kibutsuji and the Yubuayashiki family must die. This is an unchanging fate. I know you want to kill me and make the Demon Slayer Corps leaderless, but I'm sorry to disappoint you. Although I'm the leader of the Demon Slayer Corps, I'm not important to the Corps. The reason why the Demon Slayer Corps has not been destroyed for 1,000 years is because you have repeatedly taken away the most precious things of those children. It's like stepping on a tiger's tail and touching a dragon's reverse scale again and again. So, Muzan Kibutsuji, the sins you have committed in the past 1,000 years will eventually destroy you completely. Chapter 704, Shocking Explosion. Really? But 1,000 years have passed, and I'm still alive and well. Those tigers and dragons you mentioned have disappeared in the long flow of time. Muzan Kibutsuji said disapprovingly. Hearing this, Yubuayashiki Yua also laughed, and then said, tigers and dragons have never disappeared. They are just constantly replaced by the old and the new. And you? It seems that you have created many of the same kind, but as long as you die, all ghosts will be destroyed. As soon as Yubuayashiki Yua said this, Muzan Kibutsuji's face suddenly changed. Yubuayashiki Yua also felt the movement of the air solidifying, so he said, did I say it right? Shut up. Muzan Kibutsuji couldn't help but scold when he saw Yubuayashiki Yua's proud words. After saying that, Muzan Kibutsuji had already impatiently come to Yubuayashiki Yua, looking down at Yubuayashiki Yua, who was helped to sit up by Cheyenne. Cheyenne was not afraid of Muzan Kibutsuji's approach, but looked at him silently. Have you finished talking? You can die after you finish talking. Muzan Kibutsuji said, and then he stretched out his hand to grab Yubuayashiki's head. At the moment, when Muzan Kibutsuji was about to grab and explode Yubuayashiki's head, Yubuayashiki's mouth could not help but reveal a smile. Immediately afterwards, a huge explosion occurred in Yubuayashiki's entire mansion. At this time, there was no one else in the mansion, except Yubuayashiki's wife and a daughter. In other words, this explosion was prepared in advance, as if Yubuayashiki's Kaguya had expected Muzan Kibutsuji to appear in person at the Demon Slayer Corps headquarters. At the moment of the explosion, Bai Yu and Kocho Shinobu had just arrived outside Yubuayashiki's mansion. Bai Yu and Kocho Shinobu were almost affected by the explosion. At the critical moment, Bai Yu threw Kocho Shinobu to the ground. Later, Rock Pillar Jayamui Hirumi, Snake Pillar Iguro Abane, Love Pillar Kanraji Mitsuri, Water Pillar Tomioka Giyu, and Tanjiro also rushed over from behind. But when they arrived, the scene they saw was already a sea of fire. The power of the explosion destroyed the entire mansion, and the bodies of Yubuayashiki Yua, Amane, and another daughter were blown to pieces. But even though the explosion was extremely powerful, Muzan Kibutsuji, who was in the center of the explosion, only had his skin and muscle tissue blown up, but these injuries had no effect on Muzan Kibutsuji at all. However, Muzan Kibutsuji was very angry and surprised. Although Muzan Kibutsuji thought that Yubuayashiki Yua might play tricks, he did not expect that Yubuayashiki Yua would be so determined to let his wife and daughter be sacrificed for burial. What a vicious guy. He is so cunning at such a young age. He totally disregards his family. Do his family know about this? Muzan said with emotion. He thought that Yubuayashiki Kyoya's behavior was inhumane. Although Muzan was a little angry, Yubuayashiki Kyoya had been blown up, and it was impossible for Muzan to vent his anger on him. At the same time, Muzan had sensed that there were many powerful auras outside the mansion. It was obvious that the pillars had arrived. Just as Muzan was sighing in his heart, many tumor-like spheres appeared in the sea of fire. Chapter 705. The explosion happened very suddenly, but this time, Bai Yu did not receive the task from the system. That is to say, the system did not intend to let Bai Yu intervene in this matter. After Bai Yu threw Kocho Shinobu to the ground, it can be said that this was the first time that the two had such close contact after their relationship became stiff. The fragrance of Kocho Shinobu stimulated Bai Yu's male hormones. Get out of the way. When is it? You still have the mind to think about this? Kocho Shinobu said coldly to Bai Yu. From Kocho Shinobu's words, it was obvious that she also felt Bai Yu's physiological reaction. Bai Yu immediately got up. This physiological reaction was not something Bai Yu could control, so Bai Yu did not explain too much. Kocho Shinobu did not have the mind to care about Bai Yu's physiological reaction just now, but stared blankly at the sea of fire in front of him, and was somewhat unable to accept such a result. At this moment, it is clear that Yubuyashiki Kaoru is still alive without thinking. Master. Kocho Shinobu knelt down facing the sea of fire on the spot, and tears flowed out all of a sudden. The other pillars also rushed to Bai Yu's place. Everyone could not believe that such a powerful explosion would happen in Yubuyashiki Yoya's mansion. Obviously, this was the result of Yubuyashiki Yoya's choice to burn himself to death. Judging from the power of the explosion, this might have been prepared in advance. Bai Yu couldn't help but feel that Yubuyashiki Yoya had arranged for Kiko and Uriah to move to the butterfly house, but Bai Yu didn't know whether Kiko's twin sister had moved out of the mansion before the explosion. If not, as a child, should she accept such an ending? Because the fire was so huge, Bai Yu and his party really couldn't enter the sea of fire in the first time to see which ghost dared to invade the Demon Slayer Corps headquarters so boldly. Bai Yu, who couldn't wait, directly turned on the demonization. This was the first time Bai Yu turned on the demonization in front of Jayamui of Sadness Island, Matsuri of Kanroji, and Abane Iguro. Seeing the changed form of Hakuba rushing into the sea of fire, Jayamui beaming Giyu, Matsuri Kanroji, and Abane Iguro were all a little surprised. Tanjiro couldn't help but want to catch up with Hakuba, but he was pulled by Giyu Tomioka, and then said, "The fire is too big. If you go in now, you will not be burned to death, or you will be choked to death by the thick smoke." As for why the water breathing technique was not used to put out the fire, it was mainly because the water breathing technique could not produce a very large amount of water. Facing such a big fire, it would not play much role at all. The reason why Rengoku Kajiro and Juza Tenjin did not come, in addition to not fully recovering, was more to protect Uriah and Kiko in the butterfly house and the villagers of the swordsmith village. As for Fushiguro-san, although he also knew that Yubuyashiki Uriah's mansion had been invaded, he was unable to rush there quickly due to his physical condition. Secondly, the newly acquired wind control ability of Fusagorishima is still not able to exert too much power. That is to say, Fusagorishima has not yet reached the level of fighting against the upper rank demon and Musen Kibutsuji. Therefore, Fusagorishima, who has calmed down, did not choose to attack again this time, but planned to wait and see. Even if Fusagorishima joined the battle, he would only be a burden at his level. Chapter 706. Tameo appears. When Musen Kibutsuji saw the many tumor-like balls suspended in the air, he was a little surprised, because this was something created by the blood demon art. As the king of demons, Musen Kibutsuji was naturally very familiar with the blood demon art. The next moment, the tumors suddenly exploded and turned into sharp thorns, piercing Musen Kibutsuji's body from all directions, forming a cage, and firmly fixed him in place. "Oh no, I'm fixed." Musen Kibutsuji didn't expect that this blood demon art would hurt him, so he was caught without any preparation. "Whose blood demon art is this? How dare you even hurt me?" Musen Kibutsuji suddenly felt that his status was seriously challenged, and he immediately said angrily. Just when Musen Kibutsuji wanted to break free from the thorns, he found that the branches on the thorns were like barbs, hooking the muscle fibers tightly. "It's not a big problem. These thorns contain my cells, which can be easily absorbed." Then Musen gave up trying to break free from the thorns, and chose to absorb them. At this moment, Tameo suddenly came in front of Musen, and one of her hands had pierced Musen's body. Tameo's body was covered with many talismans made by Yashiro, which just prevented Musen from noticing her. That's why Tameo was so elusive. Seeing that it was Tameo who attacked him, Musen was very shocked and said, "Tameo, why are you here?" Of course I'm going to kill you. Revenge for my child. You liar, Musen. Tameo said to Musen with resentment. Musen also noticed the talisman on Tameo's body and then understood why Tameo had escaped his eyes just now. Kill me. When did your idea become so simple? Musen absorbed Tameo's fist that pierced his chest through the powerful absorption ability of his cells while speaking. Since you are so beautiful, I can choose to forgive you once and come back to me. Musen continued, obviously liking Tameo's appearance very much. Of course, the most fundamental reason is that Musen needs help. Dream on. Musen. You absorbed my fist. Do you know what's in my fist? There is a medicine that can restore demon to human. How is it? Is it starting to work? As long as you can turn back into a human, it will be easy to kill you. Tameo said to Musen with a hint of madness and pride. Hearing this, Musen grabbed Tameo's head and said in disbelief, that kind of thing is impossible. How is it impossible? Then is the blue spider lily you are looking for possible? I have already made the medicine. Tameo said with a look of determination. Annoying woman. I will just absorb you. It's a pity for this beautiful body. After Musen noticed Tameo's murderous intention, he did not have any intention of showing mercy and planned to take this opportunity to get rid of Tameo who betrayed him. After saying that, Musen's thumb dug into one of Tameo's eyes. Musen, I want to die with you. After Tameo's eyes were blinded by Musen's thumb, she did not show any pain, but said with a firm belief. Chapter 707 Setting up a Trap. The appearance of Tameo has made Musen Kibutsuji realize that Tameo may have colluded with the Demon Slayer Corps or with the vicious Gyubuayashiki Yoya. In other words, the reason why Mingnu was able to find the location of the Demon Slayer Corps headquarters is very likely that Yubuayashiki Yoya deliberately exposed it. This is a trap set by Yubuayashiki Yoya and Tameo, set at the cost of the sacrifice of Yubuayashiki Yoya's family. This is really a very bold and resolute calculation. Suddenly, another figure suddenly flashed in front of Musen Kibutsuji, and this figure was not Bai Yu, but Zashimaru, who was subdued by the power of demons and gods in the place where Tameo lived in Asakusa, Tokyo. I don't know if Zashimaru has become more feminine and charming than before because of Tameo's influence. Zashimaru rushed in front of Musen Kibutsuji and kicked Musen Kibutsuji's arm that was holding Tameo's head, as if he was going to kick it off. At that time, Sasamaru's strength was not enough. Since Sasamaru was eroded by the power of demons, Sasamaru no longer needed to eat people, and he never ate people again. Sasamaru, like Tameo and Yashiro, relied on a small amount of human blood to maintain the functioning of his body. Therefore, Sasamaru's strength was slightly weaker than before, and this kick was not enough to break Musen Kibutsuji's arm. The reason why Tameo was able to pierce Musen Kibutsuji's chest was because although Tameo had not eaten people for 100 years, Musen Kibutsuji gave Tameo much more blood than Sasamaru. Therefore, Tameo and Sasamaru are at different levels. Tameo at her peak was truly one of the 12 demon moons. This is why Tameo was able to use her own blood to turn the critically ill Yashiro into a demon after her ability weakened. Compared with Sasamaru, she certainly couldn't do it. After Sasamaru kicked Musen Kibutsuji on the arm, he broke his own leg instead. Musen Kibutsuji, who was attacked, took a closer look and was extremely surprised when he saw that it was Sasamaru who attacked him. Musen Kibutsuji naturally remembered that when he was in Asakusa, Tokyo, he sent Sasamaru and Yaiba to carry out the mission of killing Tanjiro. Musen Kibutsuji thought that Sasamaru and Yaiba had died in that mission, but when he saw Sasamaru appear in front of him and attack him, Musen Kibutsuji was surprised and knew that Sasamaru might have also escaped from his control and betrayed him. Traitor. Musen Kibutsuji shouted angrily and then punched Sasamaru with his other hand and finally knocked Sasamaru out more than 10 meters away. At the same time, in the sea of fire, a purple figure flashed past Tameo and Musen Kibutsuji. Immediately afterwards, Musen Kibutsuji's head rolled down. The arm that had pinched Tameo's head and blinded one of Tameo's eyes was no longer on his body. Behind Musen Kibutsuji, the demon-like Bai Yu stood there. Bai Yu held the demon slaying sword in his right hand, and in his left hand, he was holding a broken arm, which Bai Yu had torn off from Muzan Kibutsuji. Then, Bai Yu turned around and shot her spider silk at Muzan Kibutsuji and pulled Muzan Kibutsuji over. Just as Muzan Kibutsuji was pulled over by Bai Yu, Muzan Kibutsuji hit Bai Yu's head with a heavy punch, knocking Bai Yu to the ground. It can be seen from Bai Yu being knocked down that, even if Bai Yu activated the deity transformation, it would not be a big deal to be hit by Muzan Kibutsuji. This is enough to show how powerful Muzan Kibutsuji is. Bai Yu, who was knocked down, immediately used a stealth skill to sneak into the ground. Then Bai Yu sneaked under Muzan Kibutsuji and then pulled Muzan Kibutsuji into the waters of the stealth space. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 708. 50 to 50. In the waters of the stealth space, the battle between Bai Yu and Muzan Kibutsuji was extremely fierce. Tameo and Zhu Shamaru on the ground could feel the ground shaking violently. After the ground shook for a long time, Bai Yu and Muzan Kibutsuji finally broke out of the water. Muzan Kibutsuji, who came out of the water, had many holes punched by Bai Yu's fists. Although such injuries were not fatal to Muzan Kibutsuji, Bai Yu's fists were filled with the power of ghosts and gods, which could suppress the regeneration and recovery ability of the ghost. In other words, even Muzan Kibutsuji could not ignore the inhibitory influence of the power of ghosts and gods. Bai Yu's situation was not very good either. Bai Yu, whose ghost devourer level was only B, could not completely defend against Muzan Kibutsuji's attack. At this time, Bai Yu was steaming with the black air of ghosts and gods, and there were many blood holes on his body, and those blood holes were still flowing with purple blood. If Bai Yu had chosen to pursue Dauma in the mission at the Swordsmith village, obtained the mission reward, and upgraded the level of the Demon Devourer to A level, perhaps the situation would be different when facing Muzan Kibutsuji now. But looking back at Muzan Kibutsuji, at the same time as the explosion, he was also injured by the splashing metal hidden weapons, and these hidden weapons were all stained with venom. Although Muzan Kibutsuji was not poisoned to death immediately, his recovery ability was affected. Later, he was immobilized by Tameo's blood demon technique, and punched into Muzan Kibutsuji's body, causing Muzan Kibutsuji to absorb the potion developed by Tameo without knowing it. Although this potion seemed to be effective, it did not immediately turn Muzan Kibutsuji into a human, but only weakened the activity and recovery ability of Muzan Kibutsuji's cells again. Muzan Kibutsuji certainly does not want to become a human now. In the 1,000 years since he became a demon, Muzan Kibutsuji has no way back. So when Bai Yu fought with Muzan Kibutsuji, Muzan couldn't use all his strength at that time. Even if it was Muzan Kibutsuji in his prime, he still couldn't use his full strength when facing Bai Yu, because Bai Yu's attack was real and effective, and it would prevent Muzan Kibutsuji from recovering in a short time. In other words, Bai Yu and Muzan Kibutsuji were undoubtedly standing at the same height, and it was a relatively fair duel. Muzan Kibutsuji overcame the half head that had just grown due to the suppression of the Demon Slayer sword, and he couldn't wait to say to Bai Yu, "Are you also the work of that doctor? So jealous. You are more perfect than me. Is it because of you that Nezuko can overcome the sunlight?" Muzan Kibutsuji, who felt Bai Yu's strength personally, could understand why Akaza was no match for Bai Yu. Because Muzan Kibutsuji felt that Bai Yu was at the same height as himself, even a little higher than himself. If Bai Yu could keep his demonic transformation, he could indeed kill Muzan Kibutsuji, but Bai Yu obviously couldn't do it in a protracted battle. And now Bai Yu's injuries are quite serious. Although he has the power of demons to repair his wounds, it consumes a lot of demons, which will only greatly reduce the time of Bai Yu's demonic power. Therefore, Bai Yu is not attacking blindly now, because Muzan Kibutsuji doesn't seem to be afraid of being beheaded, so it is unlikely that Bai Yu can kill Muzan Kibutsuji at this stage. Chapter 709 Failure. Because Bai Yu felt that there were only two ways to kill Muzan Kibutsuji, but the essence of these two methods was the same, that is, to kill all of Muzan Kibutsuji's cells. Muzan Kibutsuji is obviously still not immune to the sun, so exposing Muzan Kibutsuji to the sun for a long time can kill all of Muzan Kibutsuji's cells. So there are two ways, one is to expose Muzan Kibutsuji to the sun, and the other is to let the ghosts and gods directly devour Muzan Kibutsuji. However, Bai Yu felt that the ghosts and gods could not devour Muzan Kibutsuji because the level of the ghosts and gods devourers is only B level, and they can't even devour the upper string demon, let alone the king of demons, Muzan Kibutsuji. When Bai Yu heard Muzan Kibutsuji's words, he was also confused. Obviously, Muzan Kibutsuji had misunderstood something. However, Bai Yu was more interested in the doctor that Muzan Kibutsuji mentioned. The two keywords doctor's work and perfect allowed Bai Yu to read a lot of information. Was Muzan Kibutsuji created by the doctor? Or was he turned into a ghost by the doctor? If so, then this doctor is really awesome. From Muzan Kibutsuji's words, it can be seen that Muzan Kibutsuji regards himself as a species that is more perfect than him. You are a broken failure. You can only envy me. But the result of a failure can only be killed and devoured by me. Bai Yu also followed Muzan Kibutsuji's words and deliberately angered Muzan Kibutsuji, wanting to see what he would say next. Hearing this, Muzan Kibutsuji was really irritated and angrily said, "It's all the doctor's fault. The medicine he injected me with was a semi-finished product. It's all his fault. I thought it was the perfect evolved body. In that case, you'll be the same as that useless doctor. Go to hell. If I eat you, I can become just as perfect." Muzan Kibutsuji immediately had a new idea, which was to eat Bai Yu, because Bai Yu's words made Muzan Kibutsuji feel that Nezuko could overcome the sun and eat people, perhaps because of Bai Yu's intervention. But the fact is not like this. Nezuko's not eating people and overcoming the sun are the result of her own self-evolution. And Bai Yu thinks that the most fundamental premise for Nezuko to overcome the sun is that she does not eat people and drink blood. Muzan, go to hell. Tanjiro followed the other pillars and rushed over. When Tanjiro called out Muzan with an extremely ferocious expression, everyone was surprised and happy. They were surprised that Muzan Kibutsuji actually showed up, and they were happy that now was a good opportunity to kill Muzan Kibutsuji. Water breathing, insect breathing, rock breathing, love breathing, snake breathing, Kasumi breathing, fire god Kagura. The next moment, everyone launched an attack without hesitation. Muzan Kibutsuji felt the amazing momentum coming towards him. Muzan Kibutsuji knew that he was not suitable for fighting in his current state. In addition, Bai Yu was present. Even if Muzan Kibutsuji would not be killed, he was afraid of being controlled and then dragged by Bai Yu and the others until dawn. Don't think that this has forced me into a desperate situation. Prepare to go to hell. After tonight, the Demon Slayer Corps will no longer exist. Muzan Kibutsuji said very crazily. After he finished speaking, the ground where everyone was standing suddenly changed. The ground turned into sliding doors of many rooms. The sliding doors opened one after another, and everyone, including Muzan Kibutsuji, felt their feet drop and fell towards the room doors that suddenly appeared on the ground. Chapter 710 The Divided Battlefield. Everyone, including Muzan Kibutsuji, fell into different rooms that appeared on the ground. These rooms appeared on the ground because of the activation of the blood demon art of Naruto. In the past 6 months, Naruto not only found the headquarters of the Demon Slayer Corps, but also connected the headquarters of the Demon Slayer Corps with a space controlled by her through the blood demon art. In an instant, with the help of Naruto, Muzan Kibutsuji separated all the members of the Demon Slayer Corps. Bai Yu fell into a room alone. Looking at the maze-like room, Bai Yu knew that Muzan Kibutsuji was going to trap him. So Bai Yu lifted the demonization, and then the broadcast of the superdimensional crossing system sounded. New mission activated. Mission: kill Muzan Kibutsuji. Mission completion reward: Nezuko will turn back into a human. Mission failure penalty: none. When Bai Yu obtained this mission, Bai Yu knew that his journey in this world was about to end. In addition to Bai Yu and others who were dropped into the space of Naruto, all the members of the Demon Slayer Corps were also transferred by Naruto to other spaces controlled by her. In other words, the Demon Slayer Corps is now in an empty city, and all members have been transferred by Naruto to the huge space controlled by her. Looking at this messy space, Tanjiro no longer knew whether he was standing on the ground, the wall, or the roof. Suddenly, Tanjiro fell down due to weightlessness. But there was no flipping change in the surrounding space, as if it was caused by Tanjiro's sudden weightlessness. Just as Tanjiro was falling, Tomioka Giyu, who was in another space, suddenly reached out and grabbed Tanjiro. But Tomioka Giyu only grabbed Tanjiro's clothes, so under the influence of gravity acceleration, the clothes were directly torn, and Tanjiro fell to the ground. Tanjiro originally intended to use a move to cushion the impact of the fall and prevent himself from falling to death. However, Tomioka Giyu suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed Tanjiro, causing Tanjiro's posture to change, which also caused Tanjiro to be unable to use a move. Although Tomioka Giyu did not catch Tanjiro, the grab just now helped Tanjiro to cushion a lot of gravity acceleration. Therefore, after Tanjiro fell to the ground, he still stood up with the help of a roll. Brother Giyu. Tanjiro looked up at Tomioka Giyu, who was leaning on a pavilion above, and stretched out a hand, holding the piece of clothing that had just been torn off from Tanjiro in his palm. Suddenly, Tomioka Giyu's face changed, and he immediately climbed over the fence and jumped down. Tanjiro also felt something was wrong, and suddenly turned around, and swung his sword to chop behind him. Water breathing, first form, water surface slash. The moment he turned around, Tanjiro chopped off a ghost neck. The ghost that appeared behind Tanjiro was a mutated ghost. Although it had the same limbs as humans, that ghost no longer looked like a human. It could be said to be a humanoid monster. Just when Tanjiro had just killed this ghost with a single sword, a door in front of Tanjiro opened, and a large group of ghosts that had mutated beyond recognition rushed towards Tanjiro. Tomioka Giyu, who had already jumped down, had already made a move, water breathing, three forms, flowing dance. Tanjiro also immediately used a move, water breathing, land forms, twisting whirlpool. Chapter 711. The decisive battle begins. With the cooperation of Tanjiro and Tomioka Giyu, the group of mutated ghosts were killed instantly. From this point, it can be seen that the strength of these ghosts is not as good as the upper rank ghosts. With the current strength of Tanjiro and Tomioka Giyu, they can kill them instantly. Moreover, after nearly half a year of intensive training, Tanjiro's strength has reached the level of the pillars. Brother Giyu, you are really amazing. Tanjiro secretly sighed in his heart. From my subtle movements, he can already judge my subsequent movements and attacks, and use attacks that do not conflict with himself. This person is amazing. Tomioka Giyu stared at Tanjiro blankly, and secretly admired him in his heart. Both of them maintained the posture of the last blow, looking at each other. Let's go. In the end, it was Tomioka Giyu who broke the silence, and walked towards the opened room. Yes. Tanjiro immediately responded and followed. Iguro Abane and Kanraji Mitsuri were together. They also encountered many attacks from demons, but they were easily dealt with. Bemingai Ujimoi and Takito Muchiro were together. They also encountered many obstacles from demons, but they were also easily dealt with. These demons were given the ability of the lower rank by Musen Kibutsuji. It seems that Musen Kibutsuji has made full preparations this time. After dealing with these demons, Bemingai Ujimoi said to Takito Muchiro. Takito Muchiro didn't seem to care about this, but asked, has the master passed away? Yes. Bemingai Ujimoi admitted, the master and the others are gone. From the power of the explosion, it seems that the master was well prepared. It is very likely that Musen Kibutsuji found the headquarters. The master is playing a risky game. Everything is in the master's plan. The master may have done everything he can to the best of his ability. It will be up to us after that. Bemingai Ujimoi continued to analyze. But why? Takito Muchiro didn't understand. He didn't understand why the master would do this at the cost of sacrifice. Because the master's time is running out. This is the greatest help he has provided us before his temporary death. We must not let the master down. This time, even if it costs my life, I must kill Musen Kibutsuji. Bemingai Ujimoi replied again. Musen Kibutsuji. No forgiveness. After hearing Bemingai Ujimoi's words, Takito Muchiro became even more angry. Yeah. Everyone thinks so. Let's go find Musen Kibatsuji as soon as possible. Beaming Gyuji couldn't wait to run. ZHU2 Mengjin. ZHU2 Mengjin. Hahaha, what happened? We fell into another space. There are so many ghosts here. Did we fall into a ghost nest? Inosuke was addicted to killing ghosts, and the blood in his body was completely burning. Where is this place? Is it the Ghost base camp? Brother, please don't get into trouble. I will find you. Fujiwara Genna was worried about his brother who had lost his fighting ability because he and his brother fell into different places. Chapter 712. Fujiwara Miyako is still able to fight. Fujiwara Shimizu, who fell to other places, was also quickly discovered by those mutated ghosts and surrounded. Originally, Fujiwara Shimizu had no intention of fighting now, but the current situation forced Fujiwara Shimizu to fight. Although Fujiwara Shimizu has been able to use the ability to control the wind to launch attacks with certain power in about half a year, but Fujiwara Shimizu's strength has not yet recovered to the level of a pillar. If Fujiwara Shimizu's attack is ineffective, the situation will be very bad. Come on. Fujiwara Shimizu, who is thin and looks fragile, has a firm look in his eyes. Then, Fujiwara Shimizu took out a shuriken from his arms. Unlike the maple leaf he used for practice before, this shuriken is made of metal, so it is much heavier than the maple leaf. So if you want to use the wind to control these shurikens, then the ability requirements for Fujiwara Shimizu are naturally very high. I saw that Fujiwara Shimizu opened his palm, and the shuriken in his palm began to float and rotate. Then, those shurikens began to coil and rotate around Fujiwara Shimizu. At this moment, a demon had already pounced on Fujiwara Shimizu. It seemed that, because these demons were forcibly promoted by Musen Kibatsuji, these demons with strength similar to the lower demons, did not use any blood demon arts. When the demon was 1 meter away from Fujiwara Shimizu, the shurikens coiled around Fujiwara Shimizu suddenly took the initiative to fly towards the demon and dismembered the demon in an instant. Because the shuriken was also made of the material used to make the Nichiren sword, it could also kill the demon like the Nichiren sword. Then, those shurikens flew towards other demons. Those shurikens were like machines. Wherever they went, demons fell one by one. But there were a lot of ghosts, and Fujiwara-san could only control 3 shurikens, so even if Fujiwara-san killed these ghosts, there were too many of them, and Fujiwara-san could not handle them all at once. In addition, Fujiwara-san was relatively still, and his position did not change, so it was easier for ghosts to seize the opportunity. Fujiwara-san was being held close to the ghosts, and he could not dodge with his current physical condition. Just when Fujiwara-san wanted to use the shuriken to defend, the shuriken was suddenly firmly grasped by the ghosts. Fujiwara-san was unable to use his ability to control the wind to get the 3 shurikens out of the ghost's control. After failing to control the shuriken, Fujiwara-san had to give up and directly turned the wind into his invisible weapon. Breath of the wind, killing wind. Then, several green wind blades spread out from Fujiwara-san's body, instantly cutting the approaching ghosts into several sections. This is also the embarrassing situation for Fujiwara-shima. Although Fujiwara-shima can control the weapon by controlling the wind to fight, if the weapon is controlled, Fujiwara-shima will basically lose the initiative of the weapon, and it is unlikely that he can regain control of the weapon, because the power generated by Fujiwara-shima's wind control cannot reach the power that his muscles could generate before, at least at this stage. Chapter 713 Pregnant Butterfly Shinobu. The current Fujiwara-shima seems to be able to show off some superb operations, but it is true that his strength is not as good as before. The current Fujiwara-shima's strength is at most similar to that of Tanjiro when he just mastered the full concentration normal state. If the current Tanjiro faces a current Fujiwara-shima, Fujiwara-shima will not be able to beat Tanjiro, because the current Tanjiro already has the same strength as the pillars. To be safe, he has also stepped half a foot into the level of the pillars. Although Fujiwara-shima's current strength seems a bit reluctant to deal with the lower string ghosts, the reason why Fujiwara-shima can deal with them is because these lower string ghosts, with the same strength as the lower string ghosts, are defective products made by Musen Kibatsuji temporarily. Not only can they not use blood demon arts, but they also have no wisdom at all. In other words, these ghosts are not as powerful as the batch of lower string ghosts with rankings. In addition, Fusagorishima still has combat experience, so he is still capable of dealing with these defective products. Like Shiraha, Shinobu Kocho was alone, and under the control of Naruto. She came to the lotus pond where Dauma was. At this time, Dauma was in the lotus pond, eating humans, and Shinobu Kocho was standing more than 10 meters behind Dauma. Dauma also felt the arrival of Shinobu Kocho, and then murmured excitedly, "Another girl is here. Naruto is so nice to me. She's so nice that I want to taste what Naruto tastes like." After seeing Dauma's back, Shinobu Kocho was furious. That time in the swordsmith village, Dauma ran away because of Shiraha's obstruction, so this time, Shinobu Kocho was determined to kill Dauma no matter what. Dauma stopped eating, then stood up and turned around. After seeing Shinobu Kocho, Dauma took the initiative to greet her and said, "Long time no see. Last time, due to time constraints, I had to leave, but this time, it's just you and me. Oh, it's only been half a year. How come you are pregnant? Whose child is it?" Suddenly, Dauma said in surprise again. Hearing this, Shinobu Kocho was also a little surprised. She didn't expect Dauma to see the fact that she was pregnant. Shinobu Kocho only found out about the pregnancy 4 months ago, but because of the stiff relationship with Bai Yu, Shinobu Kocho didn't tell Bai Yu about it. "You are really brave to fight me while pregnant. Let me guess, whose child is in your belly? Is it Bai Yu's?" Dauma continued to talk to Shinobu Kocho. "Stop talking nonsense, you beast who killed your sister. Go to hell." Shinobu Kocho was very unhappy that Dauma was talking about the child in her belly. Seeing Shinobu Kocho's reaction, Dauma showed a smug smile and then said, "Did I get it right? You and his child can be used as bargaining chips to threaten him. Your man is really powerful, otherwise I will definitely eat you." Breath of insects, dance of bee fangs. Before Dauma finished speaking, Shinobu Kocho had already pierced Dauma's hand that was covering his face with the Nichiren sword, and then stabbed it into his eyes, and finally the tip of the Nichiren sword came out from the back of Dauma's head. Dauma couldn't help but sighed. What a powerful thrust. I couldn't block it. Chapter 714 The Ineffective Poison. After Dauma finished speaking, he immediately fought back. Blood Demon Jutsu, Freezing Cloud. As Dauma waved the fan at Kocho, Kocho immediately drew her sword and flipped backwards. Although Kocho was relatively weak in strength, she was still very fast in speed. However, despite this, Kocho only avoided being hit by Dauma's sharp folding fan. The tiny ice crystals created by Dauma with the Blood Demon Jutsu suddenly caused the temperature around to drop sharply. The water in the lotus pond was frozen, and Kocho was also covered with some ice crystals. When the ice crystals touched Kocho's body, they immediately spread, as if they were going to freeze Kocho as well. "It's so cold. My body is a little stiff. If I absorb this cold air, my lungs will be frozen and cracked," Kocho said in surprise. At this time, Kocho could understand why Fushigorishima couldn't beat Dauma, and Kocho-shima also admired Fushigorishima very much. Fushigorishima could hold on until almost dawn in Dauma's hands, which was really amazing. With such a high intensity battle, it's no wonder that Fushigorishima's body was scrapped. It's very fast. But unfortunately, the thrust skill can't kill a demon. The neck, you have to cut the neck off. Dauma didn't seem to be in a hurry to use all his strength to deal with Kocho Shinobu. Kocho Shinobu, who had already attacked Dauma, didn't feel any joy in her heart, but her expression was very solemn. Because Kocho Shinobu didn't know whether her poison would be effective against the upper rank demon. Of course, Kocho Shinobu hoped that it would be effective. In this case, when the poison took effect, Dauma would die. As soon as Dauma finished speaking, his smiling face suddenly became shocked, and the skin on his face also spread purple. Obviously the poison had begun to spread rapidly. The next moment, Dauma couldn't hold on, and knelt on the ground, and then vomited a lot of blood, which was quite scary. This time the poison is stronger than the one you used at the Spider Mountain. Is it specially prepared for me? Dauma said in great pain and discomfort. Hearing this, Shinobu Kocho murmured in her heart, sure enough, ghosts can share information. When Dauma finished saying this, he immediately coughed up a lot of blood. After a while, Dauma raised his head again, looked at Shinobu Kocho, and then showed a ferocious and smug smile, saying, "Hey, your poison seems to have been decomposed by me. I'm so sorry. It's rare that you prepared it specially for me." After saying this, Dauma stood up. Except for the blood near his mouth, Dauma was not affected at all. There is a special sound when your Nichiren sword is put away. Can you change the ratio of the venom inside the blade? Please prepare an effective venom next time. This is the first time I feel the feeling of being poisoned. It feels addictive. Dauma, who stood up, continued to say to Shinobu Kocho. Hearing this, Shinobu Kocho knew that Dauma was not afraid of his own poison at all, and he said this with a mocking meaning. The fact is indeed as Dauma said, Kocho Shinobu's Nichiren sword was specially made for her with poison, so there is a mechanism inside the blade, and different types of venom are stored inside, and the ratio can be changed through the control of the mechanism. However, the ratio is not ever changing, and Kocho Shinobu has only developed a few ratios. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 715, No Solution. Breath of Insects, Dance of Bee Fangs. Shinobu Kocho launched a stabbing attack on Dauma again. Dauma did not have any intention of dodging, and just stood there obediently, letting Shinobu Kocho attack. Dauma's behavior seemed to look down on Shinobu Kocho, and even a little silly, but in fact Dauma was not stupid, but had his own plans, or was confident in himself. Because he had tasted Shinobu Kocho's venom, and was immune to it, Dauma planned to ingest Shinobu Kocho's toxins again, to make Shinobu Kocho's venom completely ineffective. In other words, Dauma planned to use Shinobu Kocho's venom to increase his own resistance to toxicity. It's been 5 times. Your venom is becoming less and less effective on me. How many times can you change the ratio? After enduring 5 injections of Shinobu Kocho's venom, Shinobu Kocho's venom no longer had much impact on Dauma. It can be said that, as long as the poison does not work, Kocho Shinobu has no ability to kill the demon, so she can only stab and attack. Even if she can use slashing, Kocho Shinobu's Nichiren sword has no edge. To cut off the demon's neck with such a sword, it must be very powerful. However, Kocho Shinobu's own strength is her flaw, so even if she is given a Nichiren sword with a very sharp blade, she is likely to be unable to cut off Dauma's neck. There is no better ratio. The only thing we can do now is to increase the dosage of venom. Kocho Shinobu muttered in her heart. Now Kocho Shinobu is at the end of her rope, and the only measure she can take is to increase the dosage of venom. Breath of Insects, Dance of Dragonflies. Immediately, Kocho Shinobu adjusted her breathing again, and then approached Dauma again, and then aimed at different parts of his body, and launched 6 consecutive stabs. Dauma still did not dodge, and stood quietly in the same place. But just after Kocho's attack hit Dauma, and staggered with Dauma's body, Kocho's chest suddenly spurted out blood, and then Kocho fell to the ground, blood dripping from her chest. Although Dauma did not dodge Kocho's attack this time, he also attacked Kocho. Dauma did not mean to kill Kocho, but just wanted to make Kocho lose her fighting power. Because Kocho was pregnant with Bai Yu's child, Dauma planned to use Kocho as a hostage to threaten Bai Yu. As long as Bai Yu was restrained, it would be very beneficial to their ghost side. It's useless to increase the dosage, so just be my hostage. Maybe you can die with your man, and then your family of 3 can be reunited. If not, I really want to swallow you into my body and let you and I be together forever. Dauma was still not affected by Kocho's attack, but continued to speak lightly. The huge amount of bleeding made Kocho Shinobu feel dizzy all of a sudden. Kocho Shinobu was very unwilling. If Bai Yu had not let Dauma go last time, she would not have encountered such a thing now. This made Kocho Shinobu even think that Bai Yu killed her and the child. If she could kill Dauma, even if she and the child in her belly died, Kocho Shinobu would not have any complaints, and even felt that it was worth it. Chapter 716 Hattori Kyujo's intervention. Just when Butterfly was hurt, Bai Yu, who was trapped in the maze, immediately received a task from the superdimensional crossing system. New task activated. Task: rescue pregnant Butterfly Shinobu. Task completion reward: Butterfly Shinobu will obey the host in this life. Task incomplete punishment: the host will lose Butterfly Shinobu. When Bai Yu saw the task issued by the system, Bai Yu was shocked. Butterfly Shinobu was pregnant. Isn't the child in the belly her own? Exclamation mark. Butterflies, really? You hid your pregnancy from me? Bai Yu couldn't help but complain to Butterfly Shinobu, and at the same time he became very anxious, speeding up his actions, frantically looking for Butterfly Shinobu. However, Bai Yu found that he seemed to be circling in an area and couldn't get out at all. Suddenly, Bai Yu didn't care about anything and started to destroy it crazily. Even if he destroyed this place, he had to find Butterfly Shinobu. On the other side, just when Butterfly Shinobu was temporarily unable to take any action due to her injuries, a stream of light flashed by, and when she passed by Dauma, a large number of sparks and flames suddenly splashed out. Then, a figure appeared behind Dauma. It was a tall red-haired woman who was standing straight, holding a long sword in her hand, burning and emitting flames. The one who attacked Dauma was none other than Hattori Kyujo. Hattori Kyujo was also controlled by Naruto, and found his way here. When he saw Dauma, the hatred in Hattori Kyujo's heart was ignited all of a sudden, and it seemed as if what happened 10 years ago had just happened. However, the purgatory meteor launched by Hattori Kyujo did not attack Dauma. When Hattori Kyujo's sun wheel sword slid towards his neck, Dauma had already raised the folding fan in his hand to block it. This was also the reason why a large number of sparks were splashed just now, because Hattori Kyujo's sun wheel sword and Dauma's folding fan collided with each other. Facing the sudden attack of Hattori Kyujo, Dauma also focused his attention on Hattori Kyujo. Although in the previous confrontation, Dauma already knew that Hattori Kyujo's strength did not really reach the level of the pillar, but the previous attack was able to cut off Dauma's neck, otherwise Dauma would not deliberately block it. In Dauma's eyes, Kocho Shinobu was no longer in any danger. In addition to her fast attack speed, she could not kill him at all. Because Dauma already knew from the previous contact that Kocho Shinobu could only stab and attack, and she did not use slashing at all, and this could also be confirmed from Kocho Shinobu's weapon. When Dauma turned around and looked at Hattori Kyujo also turned around and glared at Dauma. Seeing the hatred and anger in Hattori Kyujo's eyes, Dauma couldn't help but feel a little strange, and then asked, "Did you also have a family member who died in my hands? Why are you looking at me with that look?" Seeing that Dauma actually had the nerve to ask, the expression on Hattori Kyujo's face became even more angry. "That's how I want to look at you. Are you unhappy, bastard? I know you are an upper rank demon and have killed countless people. You can't possibly remember how many families you have destroyed. That's why you are hateful, and you deserve to die. I'm going to kill you this time, to avenge my dead family," Hattori Kyujo said wildly in anger. Chapter 717. The Restrained Dauma. Hearing this, Dauma was not angry at all, but thanked him. "Thank you for understanding me. Since you are in so much pain, I will send you to meet your family soon." Blood Demon Jutsu, Ice Lotus. Dauma immediately attacked Hattori Kyujo. Many Ice Lotus petals condensed around Dauma, and the Ice Lotus petals shot towards Hattori Kyujo like bullets from a machine gun. Flame breathing, 5 forms, Flame Tiger. Hattori Kyujo thrust forward fiercely, and the flames of the sun wheel blade burned more fiercely, and then turned into a ferocious tiger, pouncing on those sharp Ice Lotus petals. Although Hattori Kyujo's strength is not as good as Kocho Shinobu, Hattori Kyujo's flame breathing has a great counteracting effect on Dauma's ice-attributed blood demon jutsu. Therefore, Hattori Kyujo was not like the wind pillar, unable to block those Ice Lotus petals. When those Ice Lotus petals hit the flame tiger, they began to melt quickly. The lethality was reduced a lot at once. Some of the poison that was not completely evaporated just turned into water droplets and hit Hattori Kyujo. Seeing this situation, Dauma felt that the situation was not favorable to him. His attack was restrained, which made it difficult to achieve the desired effect. At this time, Kocho Shinobu, who was kneeling on the ground, stopped the bleeding of her wound through the breath of wood. Looking at Hattori Kyujo fighting with Dauma, Kocho Shinobu wanted to attack Dauma, but Kocho Shinobu felt that her attack had no effect on Dauma at all. Her poison had lost its effect under the previous continuous attacks. If it could have the same effect as the first time, then with Hattori Kyujo, the chance of cutting off Dauma's neck would be very high. However, even if Kocho Shinobu wanted to attack, her physical condition could only support Kocho Shinobu to launch a few attacks at most. However, if Kocho Shinobu attacked, she would have to bear the risk of being injured again, because Dauma's reaction was also very fast, and she was fully capable of counter-attacking. Kocho Shinobu had experienced this personally. Moreover, Shinobu Kocho also knew that Dauma did not show much strength when dealing with her, and had no intention of killing her, but just wanted to use her as a hostage to threaten Bai Yu. Shinobu Kocho also thought about this problem. If she was used as a hostage to threaten Bai Yu, she would definitely choose to commit suicide, because Shinobu Kocho did not want the whole plan to collapse because of her own reasons. When the master had already sacrificed, this battle must be won no matter what. If it lost, it would be a disaster for the destruction of the Demon Slayer Corps. The current situation made Shinobu Kocho a little bit of a dilemma. Her means of killing the enemy were completely ineffective, which was equivalent to making Shinobu Kocho's existence completely useless. When Dauma knew that he could not deal with Hattori Kyujo with a single attack, he immediately summoned his Iceman clone and the ice sculpture of a woman. After the Iceman clone and the ice sculpture of a woman were summoned, they immediately launched a more fierce attack on Hattori Kyujo. At this time, Hattori Kyujo really couldn't cope with it, and could only fight an evasive battle. Seeing this, Shinobu Kocho could only go to support Hattori Kyujo with pain. Breathing of insects, dance of butterflies cheesing. Shinobu Kocho immediately moved towards Hattori Kyujo like a dancing butterfly, and then when she got close to Dauma's Iceman clone, she immediately drew her sword and stabbed the Iceman 5 times in a row. Chapter 718, Kocho Shinobu's new plan. Kocho Shinobu's sword was extremely fast, and all her attacks hit the Iceman clone, but the Iceman clone was very hard. Even if Kocho Shinobu's thrust attack was overbearing, it only pierced a hole in the Iceman clone, and did not completely shatter the Iceman clone. Leave it to me. You go deal with the main body, Kocho Shinobu immediately said to Hattori Kyujo. After that, the extremely cold air exhaled from the mouth of the woman's ice sculpture rushed towards Kocho Shinobu. Breath of flame, flame swirl. Hattori Kyujo immediately formed a rotating flame shield in front of Kocho Shinobu. The cold air hit the rotating flame shield, and a large amount of mist was immediately produced. The surroundings suddenly became like a fairyland. No, my strongest killer move was blocked by him. There is no other move that can cut off his neck. My strength is still too weak. Hattori Kyujo immediately replied. Kocho Shinobu. Purgatory Meteor was blocked, and Hattori Kyujo really couldn't think of any other moves to effectively deal with Dauma. After all, Purgatory Meteor is the most powerful and fastest move in the Breath of Flame. It's just that Hattori Kyujo's Purgatory Meteor has not yet been mastered to the extreme, otherwise it is absolutely possible to kill Dauma with one blow. Hearing this, Kocho Shinobu did not force it anymore. After all, it is useless to force a duck to the shelf. Now the disadvantaged side is her side. If you want to turn the situation around, you have to find opportunities in the battle. Now Kocho Shinobu and Hattori Kyujo's attacks can't cause an effective blow to Dauma, and Kocho Shinobu is also injured. The war of attrition is more likely to make the situation more unfavorable. What should I do? What should I do? Kocho Shinobu kept asking herself repeatedly in her mind. If only Bai Yu was here. Just when Kocho Shinobu couldn't think of a better way, she instinctively thought of Bai Yu. Bai Yu, Bai Yu, Bai Yu. Kocho Shinobu muttered Bai Yu's name in her heart, and finally a flash of inspiration came to her, and then she thought of a way to reverse the situation. This method is wood breathing, but because the wood breathing that Kocho Shinobu learned has not reached the level of Bai Yu, Kocho Shinobu is not sure whether it can cause effective damage to Dauma, but this is the only method that has not been tried, and it is also the only method that can be tried now. Because Bai Yu has developed a move for wood breathing, that is, wood invasion, and wood invasion has another derivative move, that is, wood invasion stab. Both are actually the same move, but the release method is different. The release method of wood invasion is to spread the body, which is very suitable for getting rid of the control of the ghost. The release method of wood invasion stab is to concentrate the wood essence and release it, so that the destructive power of the wood essence is doubled, which is more suitable for attacking. In the past 6 months, Kocho Shinobu has learned wood invasion of wood breathing, but she has not used it in actual combat. Therefore, Kocho Shinobu is not very sure about using a move that is not very proficient to deal with the upper string demon. After Shinobu Kocho cooperated with Hattori Kyujo to deal with Dauma's Ice Blade clone, Shinobu Kocho immediately said, "Then you cooperate with me, I will take the initiative. If my attack can make upper rank temporarily lose the ability to resist, you take the opportunity to cut off his neck." Chapter 719 Dauma is beheaded. Okay. Hattori Kyujo knew that the insect pillar Kocho Shinobu used poison to kill the demon, so he didn't find it very strange that Kocho Shinobu gave him the task of beheading. After saying that, Kocho Shinobu distanced herself from Hattori Kyujo and then looked for an opportunity to attack. At this time, Kocho Shinobu knew that Dauma already thought that he was no threat, so he would not care too much about his attack. So Kocho Shinobu had to make good use of this and catch Dauma off guard. The next moment, Kocho Shinobu moved. Breath of insects, 100-foot dance. Breath of insects, 100-foot dance. Kocho Shinobu's body movement moves. The steps are unpredictable, as if 100 feet are moving at the same time. Kocho Shinobu used 100-foot dance to approach Dauma, and the two female ice sculptures beside Dauma also turned their directions and faced Kocho Shinobu as Kocho Shinobu approached and opened their mouths at the same time, as if they were going to spit cold air at Kocho Shinobu. Hattori Kyujo launched the Flame Uzumaki again, forming a flame shield around Kocho Shinobu to help Kocho Shinobu resist the cold attack. Wood breathing, wood invasion stab. Kocho Shinobu did not pay attention to the two women's ice sculptures, but immediately launched the wood invasion stab. This time, Kocho Shinobu chose to stab Dauma's forehead, because the brain is the central processor that controls the entire body, and it is also the most likely attack site to make Dauma lose his mobility. The next moment, Kocho Shinobu really inserted the Nichiren sword into Dauma's forehead, and at the same time, injected venom into Dauma's body again. Kocho Shinobu thought that the combination of wood essence and venom, a two-pronged approach, might have unexpected results. "Your poison is no longer useful to me." After Dauma finished speaking, his face suddenly changed, and then his body suddenly knelt on the ground. Breathing of flame, 9 forms, purgatory meteor. Hattori Kyujo, who had been paying attention to the situation, immediately seized the opportunity and used Purgatory Meteor, turning into a stream of light and rushing towards the kneeling Dauma. In the blink of an eye, Hattori Kyujo appeared behind Dauma, and Dauma lost control of his body because his brain was invaded by the wood essence and venom at the same time. Under the catalysis of the wood essence, Shinobu Kocho's venom became extremely active, so it achieved such an effect. At this time, a circle of flames burned on Dauma's neck. As Shinobu Kocho pulled out her Nichiren sword, Dauma's head rolled to the ground. Seeing this, Shinobu Kocho relaxed immediately. It was a success. The demon who killed her sister was killed, and her sister's revenge was finally avenged. Shinobu Kocho couldn't help but burst into tears. Hattori Kyujo didn't expect that the enemy who killed his relatives would be solved so easily by himself, but Hattori Kyujo didn't vent his hatred completely, because Hattori Kyujo felt that Dauma died too easily. It was at this time that Dauma's headless body suddenly trembled violently. Shinobu Kocho and Hattori Kyujo immediately became alert. Shinobu Kocho felt that something was wrong, so she launched wood invasion stab again and stabbed Dauma's heart. But just when Shinobu Kocho stabbed the sun blade, Dauma's hand suddenly reached out and grabbed Shinobu Kocho's sun blade tightly. Chapter 720 Self-Evolution. Keep attacking. He's not dead yet. Shinobu Kocho yelled at Hattori Kyujo. Hearing this, Hattori Kyujo was also a little at a loss. He was clearly chopped on the neck. How could he not die? What part should he attack now? Hattori Kyujo could no longer take care of so many things, and he was too lazy to think about it anymore. Since he didn't know where to attack, he would just split Dauma in half. Breathing of flame, second form, flame rising. Hattori Kyujo turned around and slashed from bottom to top, slashing Dauma vertically in a nearly full moon shape. But at the same time, Dauma's body suddenly burst out with many ice spikes because Hattori Kyujo did not use the defensive skill, Flame Uzumaki, so these ice spikes pierced Hattori Kyujo's body at once. But Kocho Shinobu's sense of crisis was much stronger than Hattori Kyujo's. The first time she felt something was wrong, Kocho Shinobu immediately released her Sun Wheel Sword and then launched 100-foot dance to retreat backwards. Hattori Kyujo's attack had already begun, and there was no possibility of dodging. Even if Shinobu Kocho reminded him, it was too late. Before Hattori Kyujo's Nichiren sword touched Dauma, the ice spikes had already pierced through Hattori Kyujo's body like bullets from a machine gun. In the end, Hattori Kyujo knelt in front of Dauma, his eyes were a little unfocused, and blood was flowing from the corners of his mouth. It seemed that he had suffered a fatal blow. Dauma's head grew out again at this time, but the new head did not seem to be the same as the previous one. The new head was extremely ugly and extremely hideous. Dauma's current appearance was that the skin and flesh on his face had not grown completely, but it seemed that Dauma's head could no longer be changed back to its previous appearance. Without lips, his teeth became sharp, and without eyelids, the two eyeballs were exposed outside, as if they would fall out at any time. Even his hair was sparse, a little here, and a little there. Hahaha, I have overcome decapitation just like the adults. Now you can't kill me no matter what. Dauma laughed crazily at this time, just like a madman. When Shinobu Kocho, who had distanced herself from Dauma, heard what Dauma said, her heart immediately fell into the abyss. It can be said that Dauma's self-evolution made the situation completely deadlocked. I really have to thank you. If it weren't for you, I really couldn't overcome the defect of decapitation. Dauma thanked him with a derogatory tone at this time. But in fact, the biggest reason why Dauma was able to overcome decapitation was his strong willpower to survive. This is the same as opening the marking. Only when life is threatened, coupled with a strong willpower, can the cells evolve themselves. Of course, this also has a lot to do with one's own strength. If an ordinary ghost does not have the conditions for evolution, it will be useless, no matter how strong its willpower is. This is like a ghost hunter below the pillar level. If their own strength does not meet that condition, they cannot open the marking, no matter how strong their willpower is. Dauma's gratitude was mainly to change Shinobu Kocho's mentality and make her give up hope completely. Chapter 721, Kaneo enters. At this time, Kaneo also rushed to the lotus pond guarded by Dauma. Sister. Kaneo rushed to Kocho Shinobu immediately after seeing Kocho Shinobu. The reason why Kaneo also found this place was because she was guided by Naruto. Kaneo. Kocho Shinobu looked at Kaneo and said, "Let's go. This guy has evolved. Beheading can't kill him anymore." Facing Dauma, who was no longer afraid of beheading, Kocho Shinobu knew very well that Dauma could not be killed by any means now. Only exposing Dauma to the sun might be the only way. Go? Where to? Now the Demon Slayer core has been completely defeated, and we are all trapped in this interlaced space created by Demon. Kaneo couldn't think of where else to go, because there was no retreat. Hearing this, Kocho Shinobu realized that it was not just them, but the entire Demon Slayer core that had been transferred into the interlaced space constructed by Demon. The only thing we can do now is to fight, Kaneo said, and her figure moved immediately. However, Kaneo was not going to attack Dauma, but to take Hattori Kyujo away from Dauma. At this time, Hattori Kyujo had lost his ability to move because of his serious injuries. If it was the previous Kaneo, Kaneo would not care, because the previous Kaneo had no thoughts of her own in her mind, and many things were done according to orders. However, after getting along with Tanjiro for a long time, Kaneo gradually opened her heart and had her own self and thoughts, or soul. But when Kaneo approached Hattori Kyujo, Dauma did not give Kaneo a chance to save people, but immediately waved the folding fan in the water and waved it towards Kaneo, and Kaneo could only turn around to fight. Flower breathing. 3 types. Makajume. Kaneo's speed is not slower than Kocho Shinobu, and Kaneo has a pair of eyes that are different from ordinary people, so it will be relatively easy to deal with the enemy's attack. Because as long as Kaneo concentrates, the changes of everything she sees will slow down, which allows Kaneo to pay attention to more details. Of course, the slowdown is just an illusion of the brain, which is mainly due to Kaneo's very sensitive visual nerves. The next moment, Kaneo's Nichirin sword collided with Dauma's folding fan. The clanging sound of metal collisions continued to echo in the air, and at the same time, a large number of sparks splashed between Kaneo and Dauma. Sister, quickly move the person to a safe place. She is not dead yet. Kaneo shouted to Kocho Shinobu when she collided with Dauma. Blood Demon Art Freezing Cloud. While Dauma was attacking, he immediately activated the Freezing Cloud. However, this time the freezing cloud was not fanned out by Dauma's fan, but was activated by the woman's ice sculpture. Flame breathing. Form of the 4. Flame Uzumaki. At this critical moment, the very weak Hattori Kyujo created a flame shield for Kaneo to resist Dauma's freezing cloud. But after forcibly activating the flame Uzumaki, Hattori Kyujo completely fainted. Shinobu Kocho was also a little surprised. She didn't expect Kaneo to give orders. While she was surprised, Shinobu Kocho moved. Breath of insects. Dance of centipedes. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 722, Kaneo's Battle. With the help of Centipede Dance, Shinobu Kocho quickly carried Hattori Kyujo away from the center of the battle. Sister, I'll hold you here. You quickly use the breath of wood to heal the wounded. Kaneo's words soon came again. Hearing this, Shinobu Kocho didn't say much, but saw more and more of her sister's appearance in Kaneo. Kaneo and Shinobu Kocho are not blood relatives. Kaneo was bought from a man on the street of a town when Shinobu Kocho's sister was alive. The name Kaneo was also given by Shinobu Kocho's sister. Shinobu Kocho didn't know what Kaneo had experienced before, and Kaneo had never said it. However, Kaneo now seemed to have completely opened her heart and told the world her voice. At this time, Shinobu Kocho had no possibility of fighting because the Nichirin sword had been broken by Dauma. Without weapons, even if Shinobu Kocho fought regardless of her physical injuries, she would not pose any threat to Dauma, and Dauma was no longer afraid of being beheaded. Even if Shinobu Kocho uses Hattori Kyujo's Nichirin sword to fight, it still won't affect Dauma. Now the only hope is to delay until Bai Yu arrives. Shinobu Kocho has a hunch that Bai Yu is now looking for his position. Shinobu Kocho's mastery of wood breathing is not as high as Bai Yu's, so it can only delay the injury of Hattori Kyujo, but now Shinobu Kocho can only do so much. Little girl, you are very confident. You want to deal with me alone. Dauma said to Kaneo very excitedly at this time. Dauma's excitement all comes from overcoming the decapitation, because after overcoming the decapitation, except for the sunlight that can kill him, the demon hunters are no longer a threat to Dauma. I'm not afraid of having my neck chopped off now. You can't kill me anymore. Dauma proudly showed off in front of Kaneo, and his ugly and terrifying appearance, and his proud smile, became very weird. Blood Demon Art, Zuandong Ice Pillar. After saying that, Dauma activated the Blood Demon Art, and then many huge ice pillars fell from the sky. Kaneo could only choose to distance himself from Dauma. Seeing Kaneo jump back, Dauma immediately activated 2 Blood Demon Arts again. Blood Demon Art, Frozen Cloud. Blood Demon Art, Ice Lotus. The Ice Lotus petals and cold air pressed towards Kaneo. After Kaneo landed, her body continued to slide backwards under the influence of inertia. Flower breathing. 7 forms. Buds to bloom. Kaneo immediately inserted her sun wheel blade into the ground, and then a huge flower bud wrapped around Kaneo's body. The flower bud was not a physical entity, but a barrier formed by the rhythm of the flower. The cold air and sharp lotus petals released by Dauma all hit the flower bud. The flower bud was frozen by the cold air, but the sharp lotus petals did not penetrate Kaneo's flower bud. Then, a huge icicle hit the flower bud all at once, and Dauma's attacks hit Kaneo one after another. Although the flower bud protected Kaneo and helped absorb the damage, it also put Kaneo in a very passive state. Chapter 723 Blooming Buds. Although Kaneo is not a pillar, she is the stepson of Kocho Shinobu. After Kocho Shinobu passed away, Kocho Shinobu taught Kaneo. Kaneo is a genius. Her growth rate is not slower than Tanjiro. With the visual advantage, Kaneo can reduce the chance of Kaneo getting hurt and increase the hit rate of Kaneo's attack. Therefore, Kaneo's current strength is stronger than Kocho Shinobu. The huge icicle hit the flower bud. Although the flower bud helped Kaneo absorb most of the damage, the flower bud was maintained by Kaneo's breathing, so Kaneo was still affected. Kaneo was half kneeling on the ground, with a very uncomfortable expression, as if he was holding on. Then another huge icicle hit down. Kaneo finally couldn't bear it, and spit out a mouthful of blood. At this time, Dauma used the blood demon technique to create an Iceman clone, and the Iceman clone immediately attacked Kocho Shinobu, who was treating Hattori Kyujo. Although Shinobu Kocho had sensed that the Iceman clone was coming towards her, she was in a dilemma. Because if Shinobu Kocho chose to run, then Hattori Kyujo would have to be left behind. If she chose to run with Hattori Kyujo, she would definitely not be able to escape, because this would affect Shinobu Kocho's speed of movement. Shinobu Kocho really couldn't abandon Hattori Kyujo, because doing such a thing would require a lot of psychological pressure. Besides, Kaneo was still trying hard to fight against Dauma, so would Shinobu Kocho also abandon Kaneo? Finally, Shinobu Kocho looked at the sun wheel sword held in Hattori Kyujo's hand, and took it into her own hand, and was forced to fight Dauma's Iceman clone again. Bloom. On the other side, Kaneo finally chose to open the flower bud to break the deadlock. As the sound of breaking the ice sounded, the flower bud wrapped around Kaneo bloomed, and the unfolded flower rotated 360 degrees. As the flowers spun, the buds flew out in all directions like huge blades, and in the blink of an eye, they destroyed the ice sculpture of the woman who was breathing cold air. Dauma had already dodged Kaneo's bud attack, and while dodging, Dauma did not forget to throw the folding fan in his hand towards Kaneo. Kaneo immediately pulled out the Nichiren sword that was stuck in the ground, and then swung the sword to block the folding fan flying towards her. After the folding fan hit the blade, the flight trajectory immediately changed. You are quite powerful. You can actually block my attack. Dauma couldn't help but praise Kaneo. Compared to dealing with the wind pillar, Fusagoa Miya, in the sword forging village, Dauma felt that Kaneo seemed to be a little more powerful than the wind pillar. At least Kaneo blocked his intensive attacks, and also counter-attacked him. The reason why Kaneo was able to block Dauma's attack was mainly because flower breathing, 7th form, buds to bloom, was a defensive move. The reason why Fusagoa Sane couldn't block Dauma's Ice Lotus Sky and Frozen Cloud was because the moves he used did not have a defensive effect, and the wind blades he produced could not completely dissolve Dauma's dense Ice Lotus petals, nor block the cold air released by Frozen Cloud. Therefore, despite being affected by the cold air for a long time, Fusagoa Sane could still hold on for so long, which was enough to show how strong Fusagoa Sane was in his own hard power. Chapter 724. Inosuke falls from the sky. Kaneo's bud about to bloom completely blocked Dauma's attack. Although Kaneo still suffered a certain degree of damage in the end, compared to the head-on resistance, the damage Kaneo suffered was very small. If you want to say who is more powerful between Fushigi and Kaneo, then in terms of hard power, Fushigi is still better. After all, the battle has just begun, and it is still unknown how long Kaneo can hold on. The battle between Fushigi and Dauma lasted from the dark night until almost dawn. Such a long battle has proved that Fushigi is powerful enough. I'm going to use all my strength. I don't know if you can still cope with it. After Dauma finished speaking, 4 more Iceman clones were created by him, and at the same time, the 2 female ice sculptures that could breathe out cold air were summoned out again by Dauma. The 4 ice clones immediately went up to Kaneo. These ice clones were almost as powerful as the original, except for the inability to use Frosty White Princess and Water Lily Bodhisattva. These ice clones could use all other blood demon arts. In addition to the ice clone that was sent to deal with Kocho Shinobu before, Dauma could only summon 5 ice clones at the same time. But after summoning 5 ice clones and 2 female ice sculptures, Dauma still felt that it was not enough, so he directly summoned a huge ice bodhisattva, blood demon art Water Lily Bodhisattva. As soon as this blood demon art was activated, the entire lotus pond was like an earthquake, and a huge ice bodhisattva slowly appeared behind Dauma's original body. Kaneo was already fighting with the 4 ice clones. As the saying goes, 2 fists cannot beat 4 hands. Facing 4 ice clones with the same strength as Dauma, no matter how powerful her eyes were, Kaneo was a little overwhelmed by the attacks of the clones. In addition to these ice clones, they cooperated very well, and there was no sense of mechanization at all. After a while, Kaneo was entangled by an ice vine on her ankle, and then she was pulled hard, and she lost her balance. After that, there was a series of chain reactions. Kaneo was completely unable to control the situation, and her limbs were controlled by the ice vines. Then, the cold air of the woman's ice sculpture sprayed towards Kaneo. Kaneo's body was directly in contact with the cold air, and the whole person was completely frozen. The next second, Kaneo was frozen and lost consciousness. The Bodhisattva Iceman summoned by Dauma had already stretched out his palm towards the frozen Kaneo, and the palm quickly covered Kaneo. At this time, a hole suddenly appeared in the ceiling more than 10 meters high above the lotus pond space. Then a figure fell from the hole, and this person was Inosuke. Originally, Inosuke had no sense of direction. The reason why Inosuke could find this place was entirely because of the hint of the crow. Inosuke came down from the space above and soon saw the giant bodhisattva's palm reaching towards Kaneo. Beast breathing, the latest form, explosive charge. Inosuke did not hesitate, and immediately used the falling body to chop down the bodhisattva's arm. Inosuke's strength is naturally not to be underestimated, and the move he used was his latest one, so the explosive power is even more needless to say, otherwise it would not be called explosive charge. Chapter 725, Explosive Charge. Explosive charge. The powerful destructive force shattered the arm of the giant bodhisattva in an instant, and Inosuke's figure also hit the ground heavily, smashing a huge deep pit in the frozen lotus pond, and the broken ice splashed everywhere. But Inosuke did not stop. After his figure fell and smashed the thick ice surface of the lotus pond, Inosuke's figure rushed towards Kaneo again. Beast breathing, the latest form, explosive charge, to consecutive. Although Inosuke's speed is not as fast as Zenitsu Agatsuma's lightning speed, it has exceeded the speed of sound propagation. When Inosuke rushed forward, there was a very loud sonic boom. Inosuke rushed to Kaneo and cut off the ice vines that were entangled with Kaneo. Then, Inosuke hugged Kaneo and rushed again to another place. On the other side, Shinobu Kocho had just solved the Iceman clone. Fortunately, although this ice clone is powerful, it has no regeneration ability, so after being severely damaged, it will lose its combat effectiveness, which is why Shinobu Kocho was able to solve it. Inosuke, who rescued Kaneo, immediately felt Kaneo's very cold temperature. It's so cold. Inosuke shuddered. But soon Inosuke noticed Shinobu Kocho's situation, and Dauma's 4 ice clones had already forced their way towards Shinobu Kocho. Then, Inosuke saw Hattori Kyujo lying behind Shinobu Kocho, and immediately Inosuke called out, "Kyujo." Immediately, Inosuke hugged the frozen Kaneo and leaned over there. When Inosuke came back from the flower street and developed his new moves with Hattori Kyujo became the girl that Inosuke had the most contact with. Even if the two did not confirm their relationship, Hattori Kyujo's weight and Inosuke's heart must be much heavier than other girls. Inosuke used Burst Charge to get to Kocho Shinobu before the Iceman clones did. Seeing the blood on Kocho Shinobu's coat, Inosuke knew that Kocho Shinobu was injured, so he threw Kaneo to Kocho Shinobu and said, "Take care of them. Leave this to me." Can you do it? Kocho Shinobu was a little worried about Inosuke, so she couldn't help but ask. Of course. Because I'm Inosuke, mouth flat. After Inosuke finished speaking, his figure disappeared in front of Kocho Shinobu. Beast breathing, the latest form, burst charge, 4 consecutive. Inosuke's figure passed by the 4 Iceman clones, and the Iceman clones were torn to pieces by the Tsusun wheel swords in Inosuke's hands. Just when Inosuke got rid of the Iceman clones, Dauma had already launched Ice Lotus Sky towards Kocho Shinobu. Facing the dense lotus petals, Inosuke had no way to deal with it, because Inosuke's moves did not have any moves to deal with dense attacks. If you use explosion charge to force a breakthrough, it will only increase the lethality of the lotus petals. It's like 2 cars colliding. If both sides are very fast, the accident will definitely be very serious. If one side is stationary, the impact will be much smaller. If Inosuke doesn't care, then Kocho Shinobu will be hit head on. In the end, Inosuke still chose to stand in front of Kocho Shinobu, Kaneo, and the 3 women of Hattori Kyujo. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.